Sri Damodarastakam of Satyavrata Muni with Sanatana Goswami's annotation called Digdarshini Tika. Text 1. Namamishwaram Satchidanandarupam Lasatkundalam Gokule Brajamanam Yashodabhiyo Lukhaladhavamanam Paramrishtam Atyantatam Dutyagopya. I bow to the eternal joy divine, the Almighty who in Gokul doth shine, with glistening pendants hung upon each ear, who fled the grinding mortar in great fear of Yashoda, who ran for him too fast. The cowherdess in swiftness him surpassed and seized upon him from behind at last. Commentary of Sanatana Goswami. Sri Radha Sahitam Natva Sri Damodaramishwaram Damodarastaka Vyakya Digesha Darshati Duna. Bowing to him whose soft belly was bound, along with Sri Radha, I now expound 8 verses in which he is glorified and show the way as a general guide. Before elaborating on the particulars of the beauty, exploits, attributes, etc., as also the excellence of his manifestation in Gokula, the author, to invoke auspiciousness in his undertaking, opens the poem with a customary salutation, Namami, I bow. To whom does he bow? To Ishvara, the supreme ruler, almighty, who is omnipotent, who is the one universal Lord, and who is his own master, the authors. These suggest the ardent prayer to divinity with exclusive and pious devotion. How then is he characterized? Satchidananda Rupam, the form of eternal consciousness and bliss, or the embodied condensed essence of these constituents, such being the express meaning of the phrase. The author now proceeds to elucidate the particular super-excellence of the exquisite beauty of his glistening ear pendants, that are set in motion as he flees in terror from Yashoda, or that are often seen glistening with the restless motions of his childhood play, as if the earrings themselves are always at play upon his cheeks. In this manner, attention is drawn to the delectable beauty of his lotus face. Moreover, the surpassing privilege of the earrings is suggested in that they are fortunate enough to always be kissing his cheeks, or that the earrings derive their lustre from his lovely cheeks. The implication here is that his ornaments are beautified by his body. The cowherd damsels in Book 10 express their wonder in Vishmapanam. No, that's not the one. Trailokya Saubhagam Idang Chaniriksha Rupam Yad Godvija Drumamrika Pulakanya Vibran Iti. Where they say, your beauty makes the 3 worlds fortunate. Cows, birds, and deer, and trees horripilate. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:29. Also in Book 3, Uddhava exclaims, Vismapanam swasya cha saubhagarthi parampadam bhushana bhushanangam iti. His beauty displayed in his human guise by yoga power filled all with surprise. He charmed himself by his embellishments, whose limbs ornamented his ornaments. Srimad Bhagavatam 3:2-12. Now, the surpassing excellence of his associates is proclaimed with who in Gokul doth shine, which implies with cowherds, cowherdesses, cows, calves, among whom he shines conspicuous, which also suggests the suitable apposite environment to exhibit his natural beauty, and where he augments the natural beauty of his surroundings. Again, we find in Book 10, okay. So now he sate upon the sandy ground, illustrious, while cowherd dames surround. His exclusive beauty a radiance cast of love's charms in the three worlds unsurpassed. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:32-14. In the latter half of the verse, the author proceeds to elucidate the passing wondrous childhood exploits, such as how he flees in terror of his mother Yashoda, how he perforates and breaks the pots, his guilty expression as he flies in terror from the mortar, how he was to be seen standing on the upturned mortar with the covert intention of pilfering the curds and cream, and how he sought to evade punishment and chastisement. This incident is elaborated in Book 10, Chapter 9, in words like these. No sooner had she spied him from afar, seated upon the overturned mortar, and doling out to monkeys in the yard the tasty curds and cream now off his guard, but glancing here and there now and again, with guilty looks the jars of milk did drain. But suddenly she crept up from behind to seize him, who is not easy to find in by great contemplatives in the mind. But when his mother's swift approach he spies, he leaps in haste and from the mortar flies. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:9, 8-9. Though he fled in haste, Yashoda could run with a swifter pace, despite her bulky thighs and heavy bosom. Reference to her as the cowherdess suggests her dignity and high status in particular, and the great fortune of the cowherds in general. Seized upon him from behind indicates his affectionate condescension in allowing himself to be caught at last. Again, delving into the Bhagavatam, we have, and while she did in haste Krishna pursue, cascading blossoms her footsteps ensue, impeded by her bulky breasts and thighs, she hastes behind to catch the culprit tries, and when she did the chance to seize him find, at length she caught hold of him from behind. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:9-10. Text 2. Rudantam muhurnetra yugmam mrijantam karambhoja yugmena satanka netram muhuswasa kampa trirekanka kantha stitagraiva damodaram bhaktibaddham. Repeatedly he weeps and sobs and cries. With lotus hands he rubs his fearful eyes, moistened with apprehension and affright. With panting breath his jewel necklace bright shakes on his conch-like neck with creases three, bound only by the loving devotee. Commentary. The author now develops the sequence of events in the verse beginning with Rudantam, the weeping of tears. Again, the Bhagavatam supplies the illustration. The guilty child with apprehensive fear grew terrified as his mother drew near, and smeared the collyrium round his eyes, that blended with his tears and frequent sighs. The fond mother then seized him by the hand, then gan her child mildly to reprimand. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:9-11. Observing the stick in his mother's hand, he wept with augmented apprehension and dread, with a view to evade chastisement. Hence our text runs, with lotus hands he rubs his fearful eyes. Such being the unique and particular excellence and inherent characteristic of his childhood play. Or else he sought to wipe away the tears engendered by fear, or essayed to interrupt the flow of tears. Such are the implications. His fearful and tremulous eyes indicate his mental perturbation, or that he simply glanced about with fearful eyes. In any case, his display of childish apprehension suggests his attempt to evade punishment. Also, his repeated sobbing and weeping with bated breath caused him to pant and tremble, which sets in motion the ornament around his neck. His lovely neck has 3 creases or folds that resemble the spiral lines on a conch shell. By the compound epithet Damodara, his being bound, Dharma, by the belly, Udara, is signified. Damodara, belly bound. The Bhagavatam continues the sequence of events. But when she saw that he was terrified, she threw away the stick and did decide that to the grinding mortar she would bind her naughty child and keep him thus confined. Srimad Bhagavatam 10, 9, 14. The rope was fastened to the mortar and then tied around his belly. The incident suggests his affectionate and willing condescension and submission to his devotee, he being the object and Yashoda the subject of maternal love, by the influence of which he submits and assents to be bound. Since the rope had nor the strength nor length wherewith to bind him, and when she made the attempt and ventured to do so, the rope came up 2 finger phalanges short, about 2 inches, and despite the subjoining of more rope, the necessary length would fall short by the same measure. Returning to the narrative in the Srimad Bhagavatam, to this expedient she did resort, to bind the offender, but still too short the length of 2 finger phalanges found, and to that rope another rope she bound. Yet still she tried another rope to add to the first rope that she already had, and yet another one to that was bound, but still his abdomen would not go round. Srimad Bhagavatam 10, 9, 15 to 17. Another cause in regard to his being bound at the belly, and hence the epithet Damodara, was to display and exhibit his bondage to love. The narrative in the Bhagavat continues. At length, when her exhaustion he perceived, and flowers from her hair the ground received, with perspiration trickling down her face, compassionate he deigned to show his grace, and let himself be to the mortar bound. Thus Hari, by this wondrous deed, has owned, though he is always and forever free, he is subjugate to his devotee. Although he is the ruler who confers boons on the gods, his faithful ministers, yet only to the pure who love him so he condescends such favour to bestow. Nor Brahma, nor Bhava, nor goddess Shri, who always clings to him, such high degree of favour gained or ever did achieve, as did this pious cowherdess receive. That mighty lord, son of the cowherd dame, the wise and self-aware cannot attain, yet his fond, affectionate devotees attain to his grace with utmost ease. Srimad Bhagavatam 10, 9, 18 to 21. Furthermore, Krishna is said to have deliberated thus. Narad is my favourite devotee, therefore I shall fulfill his prophecy. Srimad Bhagavatam 10, 10, 10 to 25. This indicates that the ensuing exploit of uprooting and felling the Yamala Arjuna trees was instigated by Narada, which also implies Krishna's complicity in love in relation to his devotee. Text 3. Iti drik swalila vidananda kunde swaghosham nimajyantam akyapayantam tadiyeshitaggeshu bhaktair jitatvam punah prematastam satavritti vande. Thus, by such wondrous childhood deeds as this, he plunges his lovers in pools of bliss, and to the curious who wish to know, his perfect submission to love doth show. Repeatedly and in 100 ways, I bow to him with love and sing his praise. Commentary. The author now elaborates on the particular excellence of his divine attributes. The conjunctive adverb thus, with which the verse begins, is in reference to the preceding verses, in this manner, revealing his perfect submission to love of the devotee by condescending to be bound, occasions the apprehension and appreciation of his charming and extraordinary childhood exploits. As the text proclaims, he plunges his lovers in pools of bliss. In the Bhagavat, we have the illustration. The cowherd dames would coax him to essay to sing and dance for them in childish play. Although supreme, not subject to control, he danced like a puppet or a wooden doll. When ordered a seat or jug to bring, being unable, up his arms would fling, as if to show that he had strength enough, at which his relatives would smile and laugh. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:11-7-8. The word Ghosham in our text signifies his kinsfolk and associates, nay, all creatures who dwell in Braja, all of whom are plunged in the deep pools of bliss, submerging and submerged in the various delight of his association, as expressed in the verse under discussion, his relatives would smile and laugh. Or else Ghosha signifies the loud proclamation of great glory, even as his companions, the cowherds and cowherd women, are immersed in pools of joy. He himself experiences high felicity when glorified by them. Also, in order to impress upon the curious who seek to apprehend the awful aspect of his divine majesty, that he only submits to the pure affection of unalloyed devotion. And so there is a couplet. Lo, I am not by mere wisdom subdued, but only by those with pure love endued. Unattributed. Again we find in the Bhagavat, by such deeds the Almighty hath made known, and subservience to his servants shown, and granted herein to the wise insight of his acts in Braja, of vast delight. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:11-9. Thus he has disclosed to those who are enamoured of the supreme dignity of his Godhead that he condescends to submit only to the pure devotion of the soul, and to impress upon them the potent influence of devoted adherence. In the verse cited from the Bhagavat above, hath made known, he exhibited to those who apprehend his supreme divinity his utter submission to love. In the exuberating exhilaration of ardent love, the author is desirous of bowing in salutation over and over again, repeatedly and in 100 ways, to that Ishvara, the independent supreme ruler, who is thus characterized. Text 4. Varam deva moksham na mokshavading va nachanyam vraneham vareshadapiha idam te vapurnatha gopada balam sada me manasya virastam kimanyai. O God of boons, I do not seek from thee salvation even in the best degree, nor do I choose or any other boon require. This, my dear Lord, is my only desire, that this thy form as the young cowherd boy may in my mind remain. What other joy with this blessing could equal or exceed? Certes, I have for other boons no need. Commentary. Having adduced the superior excellence of the Lord in the foregoing verses, the author, in the ensuing 2 verses, obtains his solicitude in the formulation of suppliant prayer. I seek not from thee salvation even in the best degree, etc., and to express the singularity of his objective, nor do I choose or any other boon require. The epithet Deva, or deity, God, etc., in O God of boons, alludes to the uncommon radiance of his person, or it implies, O thou engrossed in sweet delightsome exploits. Although you are competent to grant any and all benedictions, I am loath to seek salvation, which is called the 4th human end, or even the extremity or superlative conception of salvation, which consists in the condensed essence of singular happiness, nor even the reward of eternal residence in Vaikuntha, the transcendent realm, which is sought for by the 9 disciplines of devotion, beginning with oral reception, nor any other boon, which is to say, nor any cherished desire that may be entertained. The preposition iha, or here, is also applicable to the second half of the stanza, implying here in Vrindavan. There is also a gradual or hierarchical sequence in the progression from indeterminate salvation, residence in Vaikuntha, and so forth, leading to the hypaxis, which has been elaborated in the second part of my Brihad Bhagavatamritam, where it is argued that superior to indeterminate salvation is eternal residence in Vaikuntha, that superior to eternal residence in Vaikuntha is simply the experience derived from the practice of the 9 disciplines of devotion, hearing, recital, etc. Again, we find a verse in the Bhagavatam, Lord, let us to perdition be consigned, for sins committed, yet with conscious mind. If we like bees your lotus feet attain, in any place we would willing remain. Srimad Bhagavatam 3:15-40. Which confirms that the deep absorption in oral reception and other disciplines surpass the excellence of the highly coveted gain to dwell in Vaikuntha, since such absorption occasions the experience of dwelling in Vaikuntha anywhere and everywhere, yea, even in deepest hell. The Lord might say, well, what benediction would you have? To which the poet, I would choose, dear Lord, the perpetual manifestation of this vision within my mind, here in Vrindavan, and in the manner Vilom described, of your form as the beautiful cowherd child. The Lord might then add, but surely salvation and dwelling in my celestial realm are worthy boons? To which the poet, what of that? What need is there of salvation or any other boon? None, I say, since all joy and fulfillment culminate in thee. Conversely, the poet continues, in the privation of that true gain, constant vision, even the possession of all other accomplished perfections were paltry and trivial ends, and lamentable in the extreme. Such is the implication of the phrase, certes I have for other boons no need. Well, all right, saith the Lord, salvation you may forswear, but would you not prefer to dwell in my eternal realm? There you may behold my majestic 4-armed form, and in my society hold pleasant and familiar conversation with me. To this the poet answering him insists, what need have I for any other boon? Grant me the perpetual inward vision of this thy beautiful person as child cowherd, and experience the limits of fond and loving affection. On the particular excellence of the inward perception of the divine form, there is an elaborate discourse delivered by Pipalayana in the region of Tapaloka, which can be found in the second part of my Brihad Bhagavatamritam. Thus the prayer in seeking benediction is dexterously blended with a glorification of comparative superiority of the boon desired. Text 5. Idam te mukhambojam atyanta nilair vritam kuntalai snigdha raktaischa gopya muhuschumbitam bimbaraktadaram me manasya virastam alam lakshalabhai. This lotus face of thine of beauty rare is circled by black locks of curly hair, with crimson pollen patches that confess where thou art kissed by the fond cowherdess, with roseate lips as bimber berries soft. She kisses thee both many times and oft. May this vision within my mind remain. I care not for great and abundant gain. Commentary. The verse beginning this, etc., the author resolves thus: I am eagerly desirous to behold the exquisite attractiveness and endearing charm of this, your beautiful face. Sometimes, in the depths of meditation, the sweet beauty and fine features of the Lord are quite inexpressible, wherefore the poet resorts to the device of metaphor. Your face resembles a lovely blooming lotus flower, the perception whereof dissipates all sorts of afflictions. It affords the exhilarating rapture of joy to behold. May I experience this revelation in my mind over and again. How is the metaphor drawn out and developed? His dark complexion is analogous to the blue lotus, attended by swarms of greedy bees, which shadow forth his loose and tumbling curls, distained with crimson pollen, representing the lip balm transferred by the fond kisses of the cowherdess. The cowherdess here refers to Yashoda, or to Radha, respective to their several moods. May this vision remain or appear in my mind many times and oft, or else many times and oft denotes the exclusive great fortune of the cowherdess who is thus privileged to plant kisses on his face many times and oft. Furthermore, it is also suggests the idea, may I have instantaneous revelation of this vision in my mind. Such is the general implication. Or else always remain carries over from the preceding verse to emphasize and add force to the expression. Lips, or more properly the lower lip, is represented on account of its hue and texture to the likeness of the bimberberry. Finally, in the original verse, 100,000 other benefits is rendered here as great abundant gain. It does not necessarily denote a particular number, but includes all possible attainments. Text 6. Namo Deva Damodarananta Vishnu Prasida Prabhu Dukkha Jarabdi Magnam Kripadrishti Vristyati Deenam Vatanu Grihanesha Mamagyam Medyakshi Drishya. Hail Deva, belly bound, the one adored, Almighty Vishnu, universal Lord, be kind, O Master, and thy favour show, for I am steeped in ocean-like sorrow. Pour down, Master, thy gracious glance on me, although I am wretched and most unworthy. Accept me, and reveal to me the prize, not only in the mind, but to the eyes. Commentary. Raised to the heights of rapturous glorification by the sudden onrush of loving ecstasy, the author, in the verse beginning with "Hail," applies himself to the most efficacious discipline of loud glorification of divine epithets, and in humble solicitude submits his petition for the attainment of grace. The word "tubhyam," or "unto thee," is implied in the salutation "Hail," but due to anxiety occasioned by the perturbation of religious frenzy, the author has omitted "unto thee." To paraphrase, he says, O Master, O my omnipotent God, be graciously disposed to show thy favour. I am immersed in the sea of sorrow and grief for want of thy vision, or else I am thrown into the irremediable affliction of metempsychosis, wherefore I have sunk to the extremity of wretchedness. Or I am helpless and deprived of all assistance, therefore I am rendered indigent and worthless. Or I am on the verge of death, or indeed my life is dead. Thus he deplores his utter ignorance and feels incapable of finding any solution. Thereupon the author expresses his aspiration. Look upon me with thy gracious glance, or favour me by showering a downpour of your downpour of your ambrosial beauty, and by such merciful condescension uplift me from the sea of sorrow aforementioned. Finally, he divulges his heart's desire. Oh, let me see thee with my eyes. Thus, by degrees, he raises his expectation and takes courage to solicit his most cherished desire, in order due from least to best, nor abruptly nor discursively. How direct and immediate vision surpasses the inward vision in the mind is elaborated by the attendants of the Almighty Lord in their discourse on the glory of direct vision in the second part of my Brihad Bhagavatamritam. With the vocative, O Deva, my God, endued with rare and supernal beauty which occasions my desire to see you. Belly bound, Damodara, since thou art submissive to the affection of your votaries, it is quite befitting that you show yourself to me. O Ananta, O infinite one, who confers infinite blessings by the operation of thy gracious glance. Prabho, puissant master, thine incomprehensible, uncircumscribed, wondrous and mighty power is quite capable, despite being beyond the range and scope of perception, of revealing to the optic sense a vision of thy beauty. Isha, almighty ruler, being totally independent, you bestow your grace without respect of persons, disinterested and therefore without motive. Also the address, O Vishnu, alludes to his omnipresence, implying, O thou who art ever wont to enter the groves and bowers, caves and grottos of divine Vrindavan, since it requires no laborious exertion on thy part, thou mayest show thyself to me. Or else it suggests, O infinite and indivisible being, O omnipresent Vishnu, O Damodara, and so forth. By the exercise of thine abundant tender affection, thou hast the capacity to accomplish all things. Text 7. Kuveratmajau baddhamurtyaiva yadvat toya motito bhakti bhajo krito cha tatha prema bhaktim swakang me prayacha namokshe graho me sti damodareha. Though Kuvera's sons were to trees constrained, though bound, release and love from thee they gained. That same gift, Lord, of love, do not refuse. I do not, Damodar, salvation choose. Commentary. Thus, in the ardour of profound sentiments of love and the eager anticipation of his cherished end, the author, in the sudden awakening of rapture, and apprehending the extreme rarity of his sought-for boon, perceiving the superiority of loving devotion as the supreme means, he speaks the verse, though Kuvera's sons, etc. Or else he considers, the sudden manifestation of the vision in my mind will be insufficient to satisfy me, since I will be plunged into the extremity of misery when that vision is withdrawn. Therefore I deem the only means to prolong your perpetual audience is pure loving devotion. But how shall I, being as I am a mighty transgressor, attain it? As for that, since the Supreme Lord is possessed of inestimable powers, and is the repository of glorious affectionate condescension, by the operation of which that which is otherwise impossible of attainment may be accomplished with ease, he thus prays for the gift of loving devotion to the exclusion of indeterminate salvation in the verse, though Kuvera's sons, etc. Thus fastened with ropes to the grinding mortar by the cowherdess, his mother, he tugged and dragged it across the intervening ground toward the trees, where, passing through the interspace, the mortar was jammed obliquely between them. By means of this extraordinary exploit and the revelation of his exquisite person, he affords occasion for the direct perception, audience, and touch to the faculties of sense. Not only were the sons of Kuvera released from the effect of the imprecation pronounced by Narada, which had reduced them to the state of trees, thereby freeing them from the bonds of transmigratory existence, but were awarded the exalted state of perfect devotees. The author thus observes, though bound, release and love from thee they gained, since they were sensible of the supreme end, and had resigned themselves to its attainment. In this manner they were rendered the worthy recipients of divine grace and unalloyed devotion. This is also alluded to in the Srimad Bhagavatam. That gift of love for which to me you sue has been developed already in you. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:10-42. Which is to say, you have both cherished a superior sentiment in relation to me, which has now mellowed into the purest love for me, and hence you are no longer obliged to undergo the repetition of births and deaths, and your worldly afflictions have reached their term. Pursuant of their example, the author exclaims, O Damodara, even as the sons of Kuvera were furnished with the gift of loving devotion, and likewise you may be pleased to grant the exclusive refuge of your lotus feet, which is to say, bestow that special grace whereby you remain the sole object of perception and love. To which the Lord might say, but why are you reluctant to receive the blessing of salvation? The sons of Kuvera were pleased to accept it. Otherwise you must be content to perpetuate the repetition of birth and death in the condition of metempsychosis. To which the poet, thank you, but no. My ardent longing is to receive the singular blessing of unalloyed devotion. I do not, Damodar, salvation choose. Here he suggests that the attainment of unalloyed devotion is itself the cause of the termination of transmigratory existence, and even were it not, it is of no concern. Either way, I am indifferent to it, as it were something other than my desired end. Even as one who holds the Chintamani in his hand is aware that its possession of the magic gem includes all other requirements, even so, with this in mind, why should I seek for extraneous and trivial ends? In another strain, upon hearing the prayer, O belly-bound Damodara, deign to grant the blessing of unalloyed devotion, the Lord might apprehend, what would he have me perpetually bound to the mortar, since talk of release is so abhorrent to him? To allay this apprehension, the poet earnestly exclaims, it is not my intention to see thee bound always, no, but in the condition where you reveal your beauty and exhibit your extraordinary love and devotion. Or else it might imply, I desire and pray for the blessing of unalloyed devotion here in Vrindavan, which has its singular excellence, particular and unique manifestation, where your extraordinary exploits are revealed to direct perception. Hence his prayer for perpetual residence in Vrindavan. Other implications may be drawn in the manner preceding. Text 8. Namastestu Damne Spuradipti Dhamne Tadiyodarayatha Vishwasva Dhamne Namo Ratikaye Tadiyapriyaye Namo Nantalilaya Devaya Tubhyam. Commentary. Translation. Hail to the bright rope wherewith thou wert bound. All hail to thy belly, wherein is found the universe expansive to appear. Hail to Radhika, whom to thee is dear. All hail to thee, the God from whom proceeds infinite and eternal playful deeds. Commentary. The author concludes his prayer for the attainment of the unique excellence of perfection of unalloyed devotion in the verse beginning Namaste Stu, let there be hail to thee, and with homage and salutation he glorifies the singular and extraordinary wonder of his beauty, his personal effects, his associated counterparts, and salutes each severally. Salutation to the rope in Hail to the bright rope wherewith thou wert bound, which is to say, I bow in homage to the rope used to bind your belly. How is it the rope characterized? Well, it is refulgently bright in contact with the light divine and radiance of Brahman in the condensed essence of his beautiful form. All hail to thy belly, O belly-bound Damodar, which displays the wondrous tender charm and beauty and delightsome exploits of infancy, which accommodates within itself the universal manifestation. What are its particular properties? Well, it is the repository and the source of the entire mobile and immobile creation, wherein abide 14 worlds or spheres sprung from the cosmic lotus. This suggests it was observed in 2 instances when his mother beheld the wondrous universe inside his gaping and yawning mouth. Thus, in binding up the belly of the child, Yashoda brought the entire creation into subjection. The capacity to bind him is derived from his affectionate condescension and subservience to the will of his unalloyed devotee. How it might be that the entire creation existing outside evolved from the 5 constituents of nature are supposed to be compressed within his person is more to be conceived by realization and described, since the puissant powers of the illustrious one are said to be unthinkable and outside the scope of the faculty of ratiocination. Such is the idea. In bowing first to the rope and then to the belly, since the rope is placed over, or more precisely around the belly, also suggests a progression by degrees to the more excellent object. Now, the author proceeds to pay homage to the beloved associated counterpart in order to elicit that favour which affords the easy accomplishment of those ends that are otherwise hardly attained, due to the magnitude of such lofty ambition. He therefore proffers his salutation to the supreme goddess, Sri Ratika, with Namo Ratikaye, etc. Hail to Sri Ratika. By naming Ratika, all the cowherd damsels are implied by extension, yet her prominent and unique character is implied. The name Ratika signifies she who is ever active in the perpetual adoration rendered to the illustrious one, or else it may denote that she is his coeval and beloved consort. Also, Twadiya Priyai, unto your beloved, signifies that all your beloveds are as much beloved of her as she, by her love for you, is beloved of them. What then can be told of her affection, ineffable love for you, as also your affection for her? Thus, her love can only be likened to itself. As for that, to your beloved I bow, since being so, she is universally worshipable as yourself. Therefore I bow to her. These are some of the implications of beloved and dear. Finally, in keeping with the maxim all undertakings should be concluded sweetly, the poet, in saluting Radha, suggests the secret mystery of the rasa sport with the phrase Namo Nantaliyaya, hail to thine infinite deeds, or else, in relation to Devaya, unto the God of infinite deeds, denotes his singular and uncommon attributes, and that his infinite exploits are wonderfully extraordinary. Therefore he closes his sublime prayer, I bow to thee, the God from whom proceeds infinite and eternal playful deeds. Such is the general trend of the implied meanings. Fini. Om Tat Sat.